Namo Phat. Good morning. Thank you for joining me for a daily practice check-in. Listen, listen, listen. This beautiful sound calls us back to our true home. The fourth mindfulness training. Aware of the suffering caused by unmindful speech and the inability to listen to others, I vow to cultivate loving speech and deep listening in order to bring joy and happiness to others and to relieve others of their suffering. Knowing that words can create happiness or suffering, I'm determined to speak truthfully with words that inspire self-confidence, joy, and hope. I will not spread news that I do not know to be certain, and will not criticize or condemn things of which I am not sure. I will refrain from uttering words that can cause division or discord, or that can cause the family or the community to break. I'm determined to make all efforts to reconcile and resolve all conflicts, however small. We've been reading The Body, Dhamma Reflections on Aging, Illness, and Death by the nuns of Amaravati. And today we're beginning to read a Dhamma Talk by Ajahn Candasiri called Handful of Leaves. The Buddha pointed the way out of the realm of samsara. This is the realm of continuous wandering, searching, following the desire that we all have to find comfort, well-being, a sense of ease. The only trouble is that we tend to look for them in the wrong place. When we feel uncomfortable, we shift the body to try to get comfortable. We feel unhappy, so we think that if we just get rid of those unhappy thoughts, we'll feel better. We imagine that we can find a perfect relationship, and if we find the relationship we have is not so perfect as we thought it was, we move on and look for another one. We're always looking for some kind of ease and well-being in the conditioned realm, expecting to find pleasure and satisfaction through the senses or some kind of intellectual enjoyment. The Buddha explained that we've had to keep wandering in the realm of samsara for eons because of not understanding four things, what he referred to as the Four Noble Truths. I'm sure that many of you have heard talks on the Four Noble Truths probably many times, but my sense is that it doesn't matter how many talks we hear on these teachings, because each time we hear them, they go a little deeper. As we practice, as we live our lives, our understanding changes, and we receive things in a slightly different way. Though these truths are actually quite simple in some ways, sometimes it can take a while for the penny to really drop, for us to truly understand what the Buddha was pointing to. So I still love to hear this teaching, because each time I hear it slightly differently, I understand it a little more deeply. One could say that it's deceptively simple, but actually very profound. In some ways, it could be said that these Four Noble Truths are all we need to liberate the heart, to end the suffering of our lives. If we take them in and really chew on them, we'll find what we need. In Theravada Buddhism, these teachings are described as beautiful in the beginning, beautiful in the middle, and beautiful in the end. They're like the initial practice, the intermediate practice, and the advanced practice, all encapsulated in something that might seem very small. Whereas the Mahayana schools talk about the Four Noble Truths as the first stage, therefore, before you go on to something more advanced. But we don't have anything more advanced than these Four Noble Truths. Some of you have heard the story of how, when the Buddha was walking in the woods with some of his disciples, he picked up a handful of leaves and said to them, "Tell me, monks, are there more leaves on the trees or more leaves in my hand?" And they said, "Of course, there are many more leaves on the trees and scattered around than there are in your hand. You've just got a few leaves in your hand." The Buddha said, "Well, the leaves on the trees represent all the things that can be known by a perfected one. In other words, a Buddha could know an enormous number of things about the universe, but he said, "The leaves in my hand are what I teach." The leaves in my hand represent what you need to know in order to free the heart. That's all you need to know, just the amount of leaves that are in my hand. He was pointing out that there are many questions we could ask, but that finding the answers to them won't necessarily help with the process of liberation. Whereas if you take his teachings and apply them in our lives, that's all you need to know. In brief, the first teaching is that there is suffering. The second one is that there's a reason why we suffer. Buddhism has a slightly bad reputation because people say that all it talks about is suffering. However, they forget that the third noble truth is that suffering can cease. And the fourth is that we can live our lives in a way that will lead us step by step to liberation from suffering. May all beings be well. May all beings be happy. May all beings be peaceful. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Thank you for joining me this morning.